Set a bit of context for us, Ed, around investing in this balance sheet side of the equation with bringing staff on board, training them right, onboarding them right. Can you set the scene for us?
Yeah, sure, Brenton. As most of us have sort of grown up, inverted commas, grown up in this industry, we all came from a grinding environment. So we came into accounting from a doing perspective, doing the work, getting the work out the door, and we got paid for doing that. So most of us are pretty good at that. But then when we start our own business, we get into, or we become a manager in, if you're working for somebody else, then you're put in a management position, and then you've got to manage other people. And that's a completely different change in skill set. And for some of us, we can do that very naturally, and others struggle. And I often talk about, your staff is your greatest asset, but it's also your greatest challenge. And if you can get it right, then your life is really easy, because, your staff are motivated, they've got the right attitude, and they do the work that you should be doing, and they make your life really, really easy. But if you get it wrong, your life's a nightmare, because whilst they're your greatest asset, but they're also your greatest challenge. So it's really important that we invest time and that into learning how to manage people and to learn how to lead them. And I often say the way you look at your staff is often the way that determines your attitude towards them. And I often ask this question. I said, who do you value the most? Do you value your clients the most, or do you value your staff the most? And the answer to that will generally tell you what you need to do, because it shapes the way you think. Whether you're working on your balance sheet or you're working your P&L. If you see your staff as being really valuable, and you see them as people that make you money versus people that cost you money. So if you see them as someone that costs you money, then you're seeing it in the P&L light. If you see them as someone that makes you money, you're seeing them as a balance sheet value. So investing in them is very important, and then that shapes the way you think about them, and obviously the way you think determines the decisions that you kind of make, and the decisions you make determines the outcomes that comes from those decisions. So it's really important that we start with your attitude, and I see my, as my business started to grow, we've got over 160 staff. I see them as the most important thing, and I guess because I'm no longer client facing, I need to make sure that they're the best they can be, because they're client facing, and if they're really good at doing that, then my life is easy, and I leverage my effort through them. So instead of me seeing 9,000 clients, that's what's on our books, I leverage my time through the senior client managers, so the effort is much less. And then they can each see, 5 or 6 or 700 clients each. And that's how you scale and leverage what you do. So that's just from a really, big picture point of view, just setting the scene for today.
That's perfect. And I think, Jamie, being a little bit closer to it, because you're still well in the thick of, one of the roles you still hold is helping recruit for your teams. Can you add a little bit of context to today's discussion and the importance around, as Ed mentioned, focusing in on this balance sheet plate?
Yeah, look, I think for me, from a helicopter point of view or a big picture point of view, it's It's definitely, I always, when I'm talking to different firms, I always talk about when I started Sky Accountants, I used to be like client fanatical. And so as you grow your firm, you want to move as the owner and as the founder, and even if you're the general manager or whatever, is to move from being client fanatical to being team fanatical. Because the whole concept changes from a big picture point of view that, instead of going to work to do the bookkeeping or to do the tax return or financial statements, today I'm going to work to build a business that's going to do those things. And who's going to do those things? Well, it's the team that are going to do those things. So it's not me that's going to do those things. So to add, to comment to what Ed said, it's really about changing a focus from about working in to working on, and that's obviously building the team and hiring the right people, and then once you hire the right people, getting them on board into your culture, into your systems, and I think as we're going to talk about today, well, what's that look like in the next 30 to 90 days? Yeah. Perfect.
How much training do you do in the onboarding process? I think we've pretty much covered that off, guys. It's basically buddying the team members up with a buddy, and then bringing in the senior managers over the top to make sure that process is running smoothly. Any suggestions or just tips, Jamie, real quick, on video overload? So Byron's saying, like, how many videos can they watch in the first week without getting overloaded? Like, do you guys balance that out at all to make that not such a heavy load in the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, normally the videos are associated with the jobs or work that they're doing. So just from you don't just give them 50 videos to watch on the entire firm. What we tend to do is, depending on the jobs that they're doing, or they might be doing a job on a self-managed super fund, for example. So we'll give them 2 or 3 videos on, class super or whatever it is. And normally the videos we have, they're internal and they're private, and often they're on real life examples. So it's best to associate the videos with the actual work that they're doing. And some, depending on their skills, some are good at receipt bank and various. So if they got a job with receipt bank and they need to upskill on that. So yeah, and that makes it real life.
Cool. Just on something that Jamie said earlier about, doing the training on video, just videoing it so that you can just play it, so you don't have to do the same thing over and over again. And then he said there's often firms don't know where to store it. Well, if you're using the Wize Hub, there's a section there called How To, and that's where you put all your videos, and then everybody knows to go to the How To section and to download the videos there, and there's different categories that you can categorize it so it's easy to follow. So it's if you haven't used the Wize Hub yet, I encourage you to do that, because that's your intranet that you can go to, and it's been developed over many years. It works, and you just got to use it. That's all.
For a small firm, is it a good practice to hire an individual for multiple positions, i.e. office manager and assistant client manager, or better to hire them part-time and have them in their separate roles?
Well, the answer to that is obviously it depends on your resources and how big you are, and what your fee structure is and all that. But if you're a one-man band and you're growing, the withdrawal process is to withdraw from your admin first. So the admin is division 6. So you hire somebody to take over all the admin. Now, if that's not a full-time role for that person because you're too small, then get them to do some grinding work for you, some division 4 work, which is preparing the bookkeeping and the accounting. So you may want to hire a bookkeeper that does 3 days of admin and 2 days of bookkeeping. And then as you grow, then you move the person across to division 4 full-time, and then you replace that person with another admin person, because it's a lot easier to recruit an admin person than a really good production person. So if someone has an inclination towards production and they're showing, skills in production, you always push them towards the production side, and then you replace the admin with an admin person, because admin people are really easy to find. just really good production people, not so easy to find. So hopefully that answers your question.
Since you're focusing on output as a measure of productivity, how do you guys feel about starting with the end in mind as a training process, starting by showing them the final reports, etc., and then working back through the process it takes to get there?
Yeah, that's a really good process, because often, I remember when I was a junior and I was starting out, you know, I got to do one thing, but then I didn't know how the whole thing fitted together. And, you know, I was doing a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this, and then finally after, you know, so many months or years, then the whole thing clicked for me. So that would have helped me if someone started with the end in mind, saying, look, this is where we want to end up. This is what it looks like when you go on this journey. And so you start with that, and then you work backwards from there, you know, and then you take them through, you know, the steps to get there. So that's not a bad idea, actually.